Hi, guys. Well, it's been a little while since I've interviewed some people, some interesting people, and it has been because I've had this ridiculous hay fever. But now I'm in control, and I am thrilled to introduce you to two fabulous women, and they actually happen to be sisters. One has got the very prestigious title of Doctor, Dr. Debbie Adendorf, welcome,
Thank you,
and
Jill.
Sylvia Peters, her sister. So I have got so much homework on you guys because um, knowing you personally, I didn't know all the ABCs behind your name. And isn't it funny how ABCs can intimidate some people without knowing the person, and yet knowing you guys with all your ABCs from A to Z, you're just fabulous and so easy. So, what I would love to do is start with you, Debbie. And are you happy for me to call you Debbie?
Absolutely. You
Not
just
doctor.
use the doctor when you walk onto a plane and you need a decent plane seat.
Okay. So I thought to myself, am I supposed to actually call you doctor the whole time, or can I just call you Debs or Debbie?
That's Debbie Jill. That's how we do it. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Now, we go back such a very long time. And at that stage, I think you were at university, or were you finished your degree and you were working?
Yes, I think I'd finished my first degree and I think I was part-time studying, but I always knew that I wanted to do something in Sylvia will bear me out here. Since a little girl, I was always the teacher and she was my student. And I can remember standing with a pen and a board like this. Mommy bought me a blackboard and I was always teaching. And then I say to Sylvia, come, you must tell me and come show what did you write? And I was marking it. My first recollection of wanting to do something was to be a teacher. And then you go through school and you've got these fabulous teachers that you can relate to. And then I just thought one day, it's perhaps not the best paid job. When I got to university, one of my professors said to me, you're wasting your mom and dad's money. You should not be here. And I just thought to myself, I'm going to show this guy because I know I have it in me. It's in the head. Many people keep all the learning that they have in their head. But I know I can transform it from head to heart so that you can enjoy it. And then we start having fun where we play with it, we dissect it, we break up the aeroplane. I always had these drama classes in my English teaching class. We used wardrobes to dress up for Romeo and Juliet, and I spoke them, "Oh Rose, oh Rose." I knew my children didn't like the English classes, but they would never forget the Shakespearean classes and the dress up and things like that. That's why I know I am a good teacher or facilitator or whatever, Jill. You've got
And
the story.
yeah, but then Debs, you had so many changes. I mean, look, you've had Dubai and a magnificent role there.
Yes, I lost my husband very early, and then I had to look after myself. And then round about when we were 60, a friend of mine, my partner, then decided, okay, let's up and off and be together at the age of 60. So I left for Dubai to move in with my partner. And then once again, I was introduced to the healthcare sector, and I was working in hospitals and doing onboarding programs for doctors and nurses and the auxiliary staff of various hospitals. I mean, that was a totally new door opening for me, but once again, so fascinating, especially when you get to, and Jill, you'll know that from your tip into the medical fraternity, the continuous professional development that you have to do. So you have to work with these learners all the time. On an annual basis, you have to gather more points and show that you are still competent. So there you have a very good way of keeping the people up to date. They want to learn new things. They have to show their skill sets in a portfolio of evidence. So you help them once again with something like that, that is close and dear to their hearts.
And you make it exciting.
I hope so. That's
Indeed.
very important.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's everything. You don't want to fall asleep in a classroom.
You would never fall asleep in my classroom.
But I really want to go back now to that very personal time when you lost your husband. How old were you?
40. We just turned 40. Yes.
And you had
Absolutely.
a little girl.
And I had Melissa, absolutely so. And now, and at that stage, I was living with my mom. So we have 3 generations in this house. And you can now just imagine how tricky it is with a 1929 baby, a 1956 baby, and a 1986 baby. So you have to juggle all those balls. But I think what life taught me there, Jill, is life goes on. Every day the sun shines, the sun breaks through, and the sun sets at the end of the day. And you must try and get through that day. It's the same with my, in what is it, 2017, I was diagnosed with cancer. You cannot go and sit on a heap.
Tell us about that. Tell us. What pulled you through then?
Jill, I just think cancer changed my life. Jan's death changed my life, but I think the willingness to go on, because I've got my daughter, I have to be a role model or a model for her. And she's just as independent as I am today, which I am very thankful for, because she got the message from her mom. She's also a PhD. So we are the first PhDs, mom and daughter in the family. And the other thing, Jill, there are other people who have it much worse off, who are much sicker than I am. You must just go to an oncology section in the hospital. Then you really see how sick people are. And I'm not that sick. I'm on a 5-year survivor post-colon cancer. So it gives you, with your friends and your family, you just know you've got those vibrations that happen. People look after you, people care for you. And sometimes some days are better than other days. I've had days where I just had to lie down because, goodness gracious, I couldn't keep my head up straight. But after 24 hours, let's breathe and we start again. But you cannot do this without your inner circle, your friends, which I have had for many years. I mean, my friend relationship goes back 30 years, 40 years. So they have been part of my circle forever. And I think what also makes a difference, Jill, if you are willing to share your story with people. It's not a shame to have cancer. It's not a shame to have lost your husband. But sometimes people think part of the whole well-being thing, you don't talk about this. This is a topic that is not discussed. People don't have to know that you are seeing a psychologist or a psychiatrist. They know about the doctor that you are going to see or the dentist, but they don't have to know about the other. I just think if you share your story and you are open about your story, I think people can connect and they can sell to you or say to you, you know, I also went through that patch, and immediately there is a connection, there's a rapport, and you might help somebody in this dreadful situation that you also found yourself in.
So, can I ask you if there's somebody listening to this and they've just found out that they've got cancer, what is the best advice you could give them from your experience? Because everybody's different.
Absolutely. You're going to get cross. You want to break everything. You are so, why me? You get that. And then you just decide. It took me about 2 weeks just to breathe through this. And then I looked at myself. I looked at my diagnosis. It was stage 4B. But I also had a look, and now you're reading up, now you're Googling something terrible because you don't know what's going on. I never thought it could be cancer. But the big thing, Jill, just accept it. This is cancer. I haven't lost a limb. I can still walk. I haven't been in a serious car accident where I'm lying connected to a machine. I can still have a life. I can still do things that I can do. And for that, I am so grateful and thankful. And you must see the good with the bad. And then just accept this is the deck of cards that has been dealt to you. And let's try and make the best thing of this deck of cards. But it's down and up, it's valleys and troughs. But I think life is like that. Life is not smooth running. You go up and down. So accept that one day will be not so good, and then the other day is fabulous, and you make the most of it in that day. And if you have a dip where you have to get up and you go and lie down again, or park next to the toilet, that's also okay. It will pass as well.
So what do you think the biggest learning curve for yourself, for your actual spiritual being, has been through this experience?
I think the big
Have
thing
you changed?
here,
Have you changed in any way, do you think?
yes, I do think. Before, I think learning was very much a cognitive process for me. I think through working through this and the odd hardships, I always journal, I write. I can't work without my little lists and my pen. And every evening before I put off my light with my last cup of tea, I journal my day. Was it a good day? Was it a bad day? Why was it a shitty day? How can we do? How did I feel? And I think that looking then back and reflecting, you can see that my day was this, but my life is not this bad, and my work influenced me in a good way here. So I think the big thing, Jill, is not only cognitive. I'm speaking from the heart. It was a good day project-wise, but it was a difficult day to speak to colleagues because they don't understand. And then if you actually write it, where you get to the heart and the hand component, where the emotions really play a part, draw that picture. You draw the sad face, and then you wonder, how can I make that sad face look better tomorrow? So I think it's a very head, heart, and hand experience for me, talking about it, sharing information. I know at a stage you say, no, I'm not going to tell people about this. I'm not going to get people into my world. But you make yourself so much poorer for not doing that. The more people know, the more people will have empathy for you if you've got a bad day at work, or if you go off your rocket at work, because they know I'm not in a good space. They know I am in terrific pain or whatever with a neuropathy. I think it just makes it so much easier that your business partner and that your life partner and that your close friends know about your situation, so that you can cope, and they're there for you to help you.
You know, that's great. That's great. So you think that an attitude of gratitude maybe helped You turn things round.
Absolutely. I am totally grateful and thankful for so many things that people have done for me. Absolutely, so yes.
Wow.
And you know,
Thank you.
things still, it will be something like, can I collect your dry cleaning from the shop? Can I go and buy some milk for you? Because I just couldn't get into my car that day. It's things like that. When people then ask you, what can I do for you? Can you organize a meal for me? Or just get Melissa from school, or just something like that. It's
And
not
that's the hard part, isn't it? Accepting help. It's easy to give it,
absolutely.
but it's
Absolutely.
very hard to receive.
And I'm the strong-willed woman. I was taught you have to do your own thing. You must be independent. Sometimes you just cannot be independent. You have to ask for help. And it's perhaps that is another lesson, that people say they will help and then take them up on their offer to help you so that you can have a bit of time out, or a bit of a reprieve or something like that, Jill. Yes.
Wow. Wow, Debs. And then moving over to you, Sylvia. You did your teachers, but then you became an air hostess.
That's right. I became a teacher because I couldn't get a study bursary to become a pharmacist. That was the first thing that I wanted to do. So I then ended up being a teacher because that was the default. Everybody could get the, the bursary to become a teacher. And I did. And I did 1 year of teaching. And it was not the best year of my life. And I was actually driving past the airport with a friend at the time. And I said, I just cannot go back to these kids. I'm going to kill these kids. And he said, well, why don't you do something else? I said, like what? And he said, go and become an air hostess. And then we worked past the airline. And we did just that. I took an application form and became an air hostess. Now, in the rest, I'm now living in Australia. And of course, before I was in New Zealand with you. And there, everybody talks about the overseas experience. And I must just relate that in South Africa, the overseas experience quite often is joining the airline for a few years. So it wasn't that off the rocker to do that. And then I spent 8 years in the airline.
But then you ended up using your teaching ability in the airline.
In the airline, exactly. Look, my whole life had no agony. I got only the best. I was always fortunate. I was born into a fortunate space. I was South African and white in South Africa at a time when it paid to be those things in South Africa. And I always knew I was privileged. I could feel that I was privileged. I wasn't sure why I was privileged or how it worked, but I was very aware of the fact that, man, I am such a lucky little sod. And that has never left me. It never left me. I always know that life is really just so made for making me have a great time. Isn't that fabulous that you can feel that way? And I always did.
Yes.
Yes, well, what happened in the airline then is we got the opportunity to become instructors. You see, in my time, instead of having a promotion due to the length of time in the airline, I actually got, in my year, they brought in the merit system, and you could be promoted on merit. Well, I was always quite happy to do more and to do deeper and to excel. So it was okay for me to.
So the harder you worked, the luckier you got.
Yeah, exactly, yes. So here the merit system worked for me. And I then, for 3 years in the airline, became an instructor. My goodness me. And then the airline got this fabulous Plato system, which was the first computer-based training system that was available at the time. This was 81. And because I was in the training corps, we were asked who would like to get into learning about the computer-based system. And I said, why not? It sounds exciting. So I went to Control Data Corporation. They were in Minneapolis. And I learned about the system, and I then became the one who set up the computer-based training section of the training section of the airline. And then I realized where I didn't realize it then, I look back at it now, but my love for the learning space is make things simple. If I can make something that looks difficult, easy, that's my sweet spot. And in the airline, we then did the training of cabin crew using the system. And there was so much of the repeat stuff that you could do using the computer-based system. And we were in such high regard. Everybody thought we were fabulous because we could actually reduce the number of intake that the airline needed, because the duration of time that cabin crews spent in training was reduced, because they could, during their standby hours, when they in any case have to be at the airport waiting for somebody to not be available, or a airline or air flight to stretch over its time that people can be on duty, there had to be standby crew waiting to stand in. And so those crew, while they were on standby, went through the computer-based training programs, so that when they then had to take the course for the next aircraft or the international route, the training that they had to do was significantly less in duration because they'd already gone through the computerized lessons.
So time, cost, etc. It was just working so beautifully.
Absolutely. And then I got to be internationally talking on stages about this wonderful special interest group cabin crew that we started, because all the other airlines used the system for the training of pilots, and South African Airlines at the time were the first one using it for cabin crew training. So that was very exciting.
I love it how all this learning just funnels and funnels and funnels to bring you where you are today.
Absolutely.
But then when you went to New Zealand, and then you had your own company, and you got awards for innovative design for that.
Well, you see, what happened then is, being computer-based training in South Africa, there were only about 4 big corporates who used this. That was the first system, this Plato system in South Africa. And me being visible in the airline meant that the others said, that girl who goes and speaks overseas and has learned in America because she's in the airline, we want her. We want to learn from her. And suddenly I was in high demand.
Fantastic.
It was such a happy place to be. Exactly, yes. But the best thing was that my husband and me, he was at that stage, he was also in the airline, and he also got into the training session, and we were doing the same thing because we were doing it night and day, and he came into doing the same thing. And we then found that the best thing for us to do is to go in business together, and then we could actually service all 3 the other people, corporates who were wanting our skills at the time. So that's when we went into, it was then called multimedia development.
And then you arrived in New Zealand and you were with corporates.
Correct, yes. Well, as happened in South Africa at the time, you had to become 51% Black owned in order to get the big corporate and government contracts that we were used to getting, because you can imagine it's only those big entities that could invest in computer-based training.
Yeah.
So we then had to either acquire, negotiate that type of acquisition, or partner. And we thought, well, let's play the water. You were in New Zealand. And we thought, let's go to New Zealand and feel. We never actually emigrated. We just thought, let's go and feel the waters in New Zealand. And if we need to come back, we can do so.
Yeah.
But we loved being in New Zealand, so we stayed. But of course, then my environment had to be corporate.
Yes.
But New Zealand was small compared to the big bad Joburg. And the corporate environment there was also not really into computer-based training. So that's when I went into people development and human resources, that type of role.
But then you moved to Melbourne. You still had a big job there, but you sort of like started pushing yourself into a different direction, life coaching.
Yes. Well, you see, once you've been in business for yourself, employment doesn't sit very easily, didn't sit on me very easily. Oh, I really so wanted to be my own boss. And I then explored, how can I be my own boss? And the concept, I also got divorced. So one immediately goes into a major, or I did, learning curve on self-development.
What did that divorce do for you? Did it make you look at life differently, at yourself differently?
I guess it did, yes. I very seriously didn't want the fact of the divorce to define my life.
Yes.
Because at the time people said write about it, but that was not what I wanted to do. I didn't want the kind of the worst thing that had ever happened in my life to become the thing that defines my career thereafter. So I did want it to be less of a focus and less of a thing.
Yes.
But of course, I was happily married until I wasn't married. I didn't know that I was at the brink of divorce until I was divorced. It shows you how unaware one can be.
But okay, so let me stop you and be rude enough to interrupt. As I interrupted earlier with Debbie, you've had life skills now. You've got wisdom. You're one step ahead of some people who will be listening, who will be just finding out that their husband or their wife has been unfaithful, or they've embezzled money and they're bankrupt, and whatever reason that they are getting a divorce. It could be verbal abuse, it could be violence, it could be so many different factors, or it also could be just you know what, we just really don't have anything left in common, right? So if there's something that you could tell them how to get through those first few difficult weeks, what could be super helpful?
I don't do what I did. I got shingles on my face. Oh my goodness. And this shingles happens on one side of the face. And it is just too terrible. And because you look
lovely.
Oh, and yes. But these things you can't control it. So you've just got to also, I guess, just live through it. How do you get through it?
Self-care? Did you start spending a little bit more time with yourself?
I'm not sure that was the first 2 weeks. I think you had me at your place on the first weekend.
Oh, was it that first weekend?
Yes,
oh,
yes,
wow.
That's right. I remember it now. And you actually introduced me to a life coach.
No, I did.
Yes. Oh man, why can't I remember her name now? I'm friends with her. I watch her on on Instagram all the time. Maddie de
Villiers.
Yes.
No. Oh, Maddie de Villiers.
Was it Maddie de Villiers? I'll have to find her name. But in any case, she was phenomenal. And she sat there on the floor with me in your beautiful house before the Sunday lunch. You organized a lunch with all these second timers. How generous of you. Thank you, Jill.
Yes, Maddie de Villiers.
That was her name.
I think she's a psychotherapist.
As well, yep.
Yeah, and she used to be a school counselor. She's very switched on. Yeah.
And now I think those first days you're just kind of wondering what happened. My crutch was that I was working and I was in the middle of a major project. What I went into work-wise is consulting. That was one step better than employment. So you always had this big contract, and the contracts always demanded heavy involvement and longer hours. That might have been the reason for the divorce as well. But that was definitely a crutch. That you don't have time to think about yourself or pity party yourself because you have to go and perform, which must have helped. But also then, I think personal standards have always been important in my life. There's just a level of sit at home without things being organized and clean and progressive that you can't do. So you've just got to clean yourself, clean your space, put up your face and face the world. It's just what you do.
No time for a pity party.
No, exactly. However, I do remember walking on the beaches of Auckland, beautiful beaches, with at that stage, it was a CD playing. It wasn't a disc of some description. It was a CD. And I was listening to, why can't I remember his name either? We went and saw him together. Wayne Dwyer. That's it, yes. And then his next book, and then his next book. And they continued the self-development process, which eventually then I knocked into people who were at that stage working on the development of the brain and how the brain could help you, how you use your brain could affect the outcome of your life, which was really interesting for me at the time.
So was it NLP or something different?
No, it wasn't NLP. It kind of related, probably non-NLPers doing brain work. David Rock was the guy who was doing the work, and I then met with other coaches who were disciples of David Rock's.
Okay.
And then I thought, this sounds like something that I could really enjoy doing. And that's my entree to the coaching experience.
Wow. And look at you guys now. So then fast forwarding, what on earth made you two decide as sisters, one living in South Africa, one living in Melbourne, Australia, to do the course that you're doing, the teaching people how to do their own online course? And this is when I've got to say, guys, guess what? I, tech crazy, inept, took this challenge that Sylvia and that Debbie offered. It was a 5 free day challenge, and they said they will be able to help you within 5 days get your very own course structure online and be able to coach you. And let me read this to you, because this is what got me hooked, okay? It says, this is what they've got on their website. If you're an introvert and you think you can't teach and you think you can't sell, and you're not a techie, which is my biggest thing, you know, guys, I'm not a techie. And if you get overwhelmed with new stuff and that you've tried and failed before, hello, here are your two fairy godmothers. So I did this with them last week. Guys, I had an absolute ball. And you don't even know who the other people are going to be that are on the challenge with you. And that's also a super bonus. One of them was a professor of education, and he taught me, or rather discussed with us, about something called Chat GBT. That's for another day. So it was girls, it was ladies, should I say, it was incredible. And Sylvia, when I was struggling with one component, you actually took everything that I said and turned it into absolute sense and made it flow literally within seconds. And I think that because you do that, you take away the stress and the angst. You're so, both of you, so calm, so much fun, so easy to understand. You make learning not complicated. You definitely make it simple. You give people a chance to actually ask questions. And I just highly recommend this to anybody watching today. If they are thinking of putting an online course so that they, in this uncertain, troubled times that we're living through, and they've got a passion inside, they know they're good at something, they know they can share something, and they'll be able to put it online, but they don't even know where to start, how to begin, that you guys will be able to help them, which means they can have flexibility and, as Sylvia said earlier, be your own boss. Don't take any nonsense from anyone. So quickly tell them about the course as such, whether you are going to offer any more free challenges. And after this, I will put your contact details for them to contact you to find out more, in our little blurby. So guys, over to you guys. What would you like to say to the audience?
Thank you, Jill. That was such a beautiful review that we got on last week's activity, but it was a fabulous week, wasn't it?
It was brilliant.
I think our sweet spot is that we can create speed and ease. But anybody, if you've got a focus and you're wanting to get to that place, you will get there. But if you can have somebody walk with you for a while and just show you where the potholes are so that you can avoid them and get you there a little bit faster, now that is what we want to do. And we feel so strongly that you should be able to earn on your own terms for as long as you want to. In some environments, people can't. Deb, you carry on there. I see you had your hand up.
That's quite all right. As Sylvia said, we are showing you the pressure points because we have experience. We can tell you where is, watch out for this, don't do it this way. And I think what we are good at, we always give you, we call it something, a cheat sheet, a worksheet, a formula, a framework that you can go and fill out, but you've got the outline. That's number one. If you can put your course to be in a framework, then it is ring fence. Then you know what you can do and what you are not going to do. So often in today's world, we always look at what the competition is doing. And then you make a list and you see, oh, there's another course and they're doing that and some more and some more. So you get so overwhelmed. So what must I actually give my small area of the target population that I'm aiming to improve something or solve a problem? And it's that whole thing of analysis paralysis that we will cut out for you. The whole thing of infobesity. We are so body conscious. We are also mind conscious with too much information. And we want to get out of the curse of knowledge paradigm. Everybody says you must know this and this and this and this and this. You don't have to know everything. If you've got a framework, and you know what to do for your students to succeed, then I also think you've got a winning path. Sylvia?
And I'll quickly interrupt Sylvia, and I'll say what got me onto wanting to do this whole thing, right? Let's just get right through to it. I found out that there was a lady who had a little boy who suffered from eczema. She was a solo mother. She didn't have money. She had to go to work, and this little boy was crying, and it just broke her heart. So she looked around, and it took her a long time, many, many months, to find out all the natural ways that she could help her little boy. And it was life-changing for both of them. And she thought, if it could help him, there must be other people in this world suffering from eczema, old people, young people, middle, whatever. So she put a little course, 5 easy steps to combat eczema. And she's become a multimillionaire, right? Now, there are many people that have problems, simple, just simple like that, that you who are listening will be a specialist in. And the great thing is that you don't have to know all the other stuff. You just have to have your passion. You take your passion to Sylvia and Debbie and you say, guys, can you please help me to put this onto an online course? Teach me how to do it myself. Isn't that it? In a nutshell.
I firmly believe that the world has come to a place where we each should give what we have freely. And there was a time when only superstars and major athletes and dancers and singers, they got seen. Now we've got the internet, which is such an equalizer.
Yeah.
And we can all be seen. Isn't that a privilege? And here...
It's everybody's time to shine.
Yes, 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 yes. All you need to do is believe that you've got something to give and a real desire to give that with love and gratitude and knowledge that it can help somebody. And my goodness, we'll get it out there and you will help somebody. And I think that just makes life smooth, better, and fabulous.
You know what, guys? I'm so glad. Thank you for giving up time, because I know that it's early in the morning for you and you've got electricity problems, and half the time that country you have to be on a generator. I mean, wow, how difficult is that? And yet you keep on smiling. And Sylvia, you also just a little joy germ. And together, you guys, you know, anybody taking this, man, if anybody's depressed, they should just actually even take the 5-day challenge, because at the end of it, they'll be smiling and just feeling great. So any last words for the audience, guys? Debs?
For me, it's all about, we talk about the head, heart, and hand. And if you can do whatever you do, be it doing the dishes, learning, speaking to people, if you give your whole being, head, heart, and hand into whatever you do, you will succeed.
Great. What about you, Sylvia?
In the life that we're living, which has become longer and we live better for so much longer, we need stimulus. We need to keep our brains active. And what a better way to be active, contribute into your 70s, into your 80s, making a contribution, earning a little bit of extra money, sharing what you know and love. And this is the way in which to do it. And I think that is such a joy. And it is even a necessity. You can't just dwindle the days on. Make every day count, make it special, have a purpose, give what you've got, share it around. And the way to do it is creatingmycourse.com.
That's what I was just going to say. We spoke it the whole time, but we actually haven't seen what it's called.
That's it, creatingmycourse.com.
creatingmycourse.com. Debbie, Sylvia, it's been an absolute pleasure. Guys, I hope you've had fun and learned something new. I encourage you to get in touch with both of these two fabulous ladies. And until next time, love and kisses. Cheers.
Thank you so much. Go well.